Hey guys, what's going on? I've just been thinking about maybe getting a background for the intro of these videos. Then I realized I don't have any money. I mean, give me a break. I want to see you try not to be broke when you're stuck in a black void reviewing games. The last time I had money, I spent it all on Mike and Ike's. So of course, I don't have any money, so I just have to put the stock image here until I can get a new one. Wait, that's not the right... Hold on. Hey Cammy, can you get the right background for the video? Yeah, I know you're tired, but this is important. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Now where was I? Oh yeah, FNAF fan games. The only market where the same game can get remade 5 times, all by separate teams, and not be questioned. The only market where plagiarism is the highest form of flattery. The only market where... I'm running out of stuff to say, man. Today I'm going to talk about a very specific fan game. So if you've been in the fan games scene in the past 5 years, then you might have heard of a game called Running in the 80s released by There's No Stake in 2019-2020-ish. I don't remember the original release date. If you remember this game, then you might remember the panic when it was false flagged by multiple antivirus software. Because of this, multiple people thought that the program was malicious, and eventually the game was deleted from GameJolt. But the creator, There's No Stake, didn't want to give up on the original ideas she presented in the original version of the game. So thus, Stake's multiple attempts at recreating the game using the original ideas began. To give you an idea, this game has already been remade twice, the third one in the works, and has gone through multiple revisions throughout the years. To be honest, I can kinda respect the fact that Stake hasn't given up on this game and still wants to make it the best it can be. But these remakes either get deleted soon after the finish, or rot with nobody talking about them. I want to do one of these remakes justice by giving my honest review of said game and deciding if it's worth the download or not. Well, what's the game called? It's... Reanimation was released in early 2021 by There's No Stake as one of the many remakes that Running in the 80s has received. This game is a bit strange. Why do you ask? Well, it's mostly because no one talks about it outside of random Discord calls, talking from experience, and the lack of story, but I'm getting ahead of myself. For context, I found out about this game when I was in a Discord call when people wouldn't shut up about it. With my curiosity peaking, I downloaded an archived version of it from GameJolt, and it was an interesting experience. Now, like I said earlier, Storm, I know you really like this game. Before I start talking about this game, I want to say that I don't think it's bad. I just think it needs slight improvement in some areas. I also want to say that I'm only going to give constructive criticism of said game. I apologize for my last video being emotionally charged in the end, but I promise that I'm going to try to be as neutral as possible throughout this review. With that being said, let's begin. So we open the game and are generously welcomed to the title screen. To be honest, it's not that different from other fan game title screens. One of the cast on the right spasming around. But there's one thing to notice when you're on this title screen, and it's the lack of music. Usually FNAF fan games have a menu theme that sounds dark and mysterious to set a tone for the game. But the only thing you hear on AR's title scheme is static. Nothing else. It almost invokes more dread in me than if there was music in it. Also, if you stay on the title screen long enough, much like Finale, Fredbear will look at the camera. Great! First, I want to say that all the visuals in this game look stunning. All the animatronics look great, some of them getting major overhauls in terms of general design. All the rooms look good, and I really like the office and UI. The UI reminds me a lot of Candy's too, if that makes any sense. I really like it. Though I must admit this game abuses the retro gaming font. Like, it is everywhere. Hell, even I'm using it for this video. I'm just using it for the sake of theme. The animations look good as well, if not a bit slow in some areas. But instead of gushing over this game's visual style, I should move on to the gameplay. So this game's gameplay is interesting. You have 2 doors to the left and right of you, what a surprise, an event in front of you which will be important later. Now I'll quickly go over how each animatronics works in order of introduction. Bonus mechanic is basically a spring trap from FNAF 3, but you can only learn to one room. How he works is when you leave the dining room, you need to press the PA system button to learn back. Well, the problem is that, much like Springtrap, sometimes you just won't go to it and you'll have to press it again. By the way, the camera system has batteries and will start to get blurry if you're on it for too long. In my opinion, I suppose this is a fair way to balance the game, but it can get annoying at times. Next, let's talk about Foxy. Whenever he attacks, you'll hear footsteps in either your right ear or left ear. Whichever direction you hear it is where you'll need to point your flashlight at the door. Foxy will appear, stay for a few seconds, then leave. I also guess this is the time to mention your flashlight has a very crappy battery that runs out in like 10 seconds, but it recharges every time you turn it off, so if you use it sparingly, then you should be fine. Though I must admit that it was definitely a wrong killer at some times. Before I explain Chica, let me explain how the cameras work. With the cameras, instead of the usual transparent map layout, you have to scroll through the cameras with the left and right arrows on the screen. To be fair, you are given a map, but I feel like it's ultimately useless. Once I found out which cameras was the one next to my office, I didn't really have another use for it. I'll also admit that this was once again a run killer for me. It's a cool idea and all, but I feel like just the usual controls would have been better. Alright, now I can talk about Chica. Whenever she disappears from the dining room, you have to scroll through the cameras to find her. Whenever you do find her, you have to use the camera light to send her back. Finally, let's get to Fredbear. At random intervals, you will hear a music box in your left ear and right ear. You have to use your light on the corresponding door before the music stops. If you're too late, you die. In Fredbear, if you're too late, there's this cool visual with Fredbear standing in front of the desk, looking at you. Kinda like that FNAF Plus teaser with Bonnie. All in all, these are alright mechanics, but I feel like there's no correlation between them. With every animatronic being different, it's a weird gameplay loop where it's more of a list of to-dos instead of a usual FNAF game. It almost kinda reminds me of Popca's 2016. Another problem with this game's gameplay is that it is incredibly short. Like, it took me 30 minutes to beat on my second playthrough. Another thing I'll say about the gameplay is that the hints on the loading screen are incredibly, and I mean extremely, vague. Like, for example, I'll talk about Chica. With Chica, the game says to check the vent, so by instinct I tried using my flashlight on the vent inside the office. I died, was confused, and tried again. And again. And again. Eventually I got so frustrated I had to look up a playthrough on YouTube and discovered that you had to use the camera lights instead. Needless to say, I was annoyed. I just wish the game explained its mechanics better. Anyways, let's get to the story. JK, there is no story, idiot! Before I talk about the extras, I want to briefly talk about the music. In this game, each night has its own theme to differentiate them, and I must say that the composer, Aidan O'Flynn, did an amazing job in this game. Each track feels relatively unique and they all sound great, but I think my favorite track has to be the extras track, also called The End. It feels both somber and peaceful, almost bittersweet. It almost sounds like a credit song for a series finales of a show. Like it really is the end. You did it. You beat the game. Anyways, moving right along, let's talk more about the extras. You get the usual, character portraits, credits, and some behind the scenes stuff, but kinda wish there was more to this game outside of the base 5 nights and extras. Like maybe a bonus night, or a custom night, or really anything else. I just feel like it's way too short. Also, before I get into the outro, I want to say once again that this game is extremely easy when you know what you're doing. Like, for example, my first playthrough was 1 to 2 hours long. Comparing that to my second playthrough that I recorded for background footage, it only took me 30 minutes. Once again, if the gameplay were tweaked a bit, I feel like there could be some serious challenge in it. Anyways, let's move on. In short, Automation Reanimation was cool, but it wasn't really long enough to flesh out its ideas. In my opinion, despite the praises I've given it, it's pretty bare bones. I feel like if its mechanics were a bit more complex, if it was a bit more difficult, and there was a bit more content outside of the 5 main nights, this game could have been one of the greats. But as it stands, it's just okay. I give Automation Reanimation 6 Daring Fredbears out of 10 Security Breach sound effects. Anyways, that's all I've got. Goodbye.